A lot of patients will report, well, a lot of my adult patients that have autistic children will report that it's really hard to go from, dinner time to bedtime or morning to getting dressed and ready for school.
Going back to that computer analogy, if you have one tab open and you're very invested in whatever's happening in that tab, it is hard to suddenly be like, all right, next order of business. It's very discombobulating for somebody with autism. And for a neurotypical person, switching tabs all day long, not really, noticing it. With an autistic person who's experiencing everything so deeply, it's a big deal to switch.
Yeah. When the autistic patient is totally honed in and concentrated and fixated, and getting them to transition out of that tab that they're totally invested in can be a big trigger for meltdowns, irritability, anger, agitation, which makes it, it's difficult on parents a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think that's why having a diagnosis can be so empowering for both the patient and the family, especially if they're younger.
If a parent were to ask you, Dr. Jain, what sort of advice or tips do you have to making these transition points throughout the day more smoothly? I understand my child is on the autism spectrum. How do I make this smoother, less disruptive?
Interestingly, as we talk about mentalization and understanding different viewpoints of others, I think it's helpful to do some mentalizing about what it might be like to be an autistic person. And to understand that if you're processing very deeply, you're going to need gentle transitions. Mm-hmm. And, what that might look like for each family might be different. And I think that would be helpful to speak with a therapist or provider about. But, before you do something with a lot of sensory stimulation. So, for example, if you're taking your kid to the airport and getting on the plane, really prepping them for that experience. So sitting down with them, explaining what's going to happen, explaining what they might encounter, so that it's not all overwhelming new sensory information for somebody who processes so deeply.